We've reviewed hundreds of low elo games this season to hunt for the most common mistakes players are making in Season 16, and what we found shocked us. Every single game, without fail, players end up making the same exact game-losing mistakes. And we're not talking mechanical misplays or challenger-level macro decisions. These are super simple mistakes and minor decisions that are incredibly easy to fix once you know about them. And in fact, if you just focus on fixing just one or two of the mistakes in this video, we guarantee you'll see significant rank gains this season. How can we be so sure? Well, taking players and getting them results fast is exactly what we specialize in here at SkillCapped. Take our brand new Season 16 macro course with countless perfect 5-star ratings, with one player even saying how this one course alone was so helpful it helped him climb from Iron to Emerald this season. Or our world-class Essentials courses, tailor-made to guide you through every stage of the game for every role. Whether that be playing the lane phase, navigating the mid-game, or learning everything you need to close out games. Still not convinced? Well, there's even our Diamond and 90-day courses where we take completely new players and document their journey to Diamond using the exact same content available to you. And best of all, you can try it all out completely risk-free, as if you don't rank up at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, you get every penny back, no questions asked. So check out the link in the description or pinned comment below and get the rank you've always wanted this season. For our first tip, we have without a doubt the most common yet easy to fix mistake of them all. Tell me this doesn't sound familiar. You load into a game, get to lane, and start completely stomping your opponent like it's not even close. Probably thinking to yourself, how on earth are you even in the same rank as this player? Then just a few seconds later, the enemy jungler arrives, ganks you, and just like that, all your early game pressure is gone, and despite being the better laner, you're now behind. Great. And you're stuck wondering, why can't you ever get junglers like that on your team? Well, this is happening because you're not keeping track of the most important 60 seconds in the entire game, between 2 minutes 30 and 3 minutes 30. Every jungler, no matter the elo, in 99% of games will follow one of 3 routes, either starting at one of their buffs and full clearing, finishing at either their blue or Krugs, depending on where they started, or starting Raptors, and then clearing their red side jungle and finishing at their blue. But it doesn't matter the route they take. Every jungler will typically finish their final camp slightly before Scuttle spawns, and depending on how fast their first clear was, will either look for a gank before Scuttle spawns at 255, or immediately after they've cleared it. Meaning, if you're always paying attention to this timer, you will always have a solid idea of where the enemy jungler is going to be. To know for certain, though, the most overpowered ward in the game for the past few years has been this one here on the enemy Raptors, which can either be placed right at the start of the game by your mid laner or your jungler. What makes this so strong is that it lets you know exactly how the enemy jungler is pathing, where they finish, and what side of the map needs to play safe around that timer. And there's a few ways to tell how, either pressing tab and looking at their CS. If they have 12 when you see them on Raptors, they'll be finishing at Krugs. If they have 8, they will be finishing at blue. Or an even simpler trick is to just pay attention to the cannon wave. If you see them on that ward before the cannon appears in your lane, then they started on their red buff, so will finish at their blue. But obviously, this is low elo. You're not always going to be lucky enough to have your mid laner or jungler drop that ward for you. So our advice is simple. Just either look to get a ward down just before this minute timer if you want to continue playing aggressive, or just play safe and assume they'll be there. And even then, once your own jungler gets to their scuttle crab, this gives you all the information you need. Take this Malphite here. He's pushing up and fighting the Zehen just before 3 minutes, yet made the mistake of not having a ward down. But at the same time, he doesn't even need a ward, as he can see his Lee Sin is taking bottom scuttle completely uncontested. I wonder where that means Shin is. So please, if you ever die to a gank between this timer, just know it was completely avoidable. Now, while our first mistake was from laners, our second comes from junglers, as there's one metric specifically for junglers that improves drastically at every single rank. Iron to bronze, platinum to emerald, or even masters to challenger. It doesn't matter. If you improve at this, statistically, you will climb. And the best of all, it's super simple to get better at, as it's just clearing your jungle, and that's our second mistake. Not putting any real practice or effort into your jungle clear. We picked 20 random games from Iron to Emerald and marked the location of where every camp was finished off on this heat map. Now, compare that to this same heat map, but from Diamond and above. As you can see, there's a drastic difference to where each camp was typically finished off, with higher elo players making use of jungle patience to drag camps out and finish them off while they move to the next one in their route, which may not immediately seem like the biggest deal, but look at it this way. If you're saving something as little as just 2 seconds per camp, it means you're going to be finishing your clear 12 seconds faster. Meaning, while you previously might have made it to scuttle just on time or even slightly after it spawns, you'll now be getting there early, giving you time to set up and get the jump on the enemy jungler, or even just look for a gank while the enemy jungler is still stuck finishing their last camp. And that's only the benefits from your first clear. Think about how many times you clear your jungle in a single ranked game. If you're saving 2 seconds per camp, it's quickly going to add up, and you'll find you have so much more free time to gank or do other things on the map rather than just being stuck farming camps the whole game. This is why every every high elo jungler puts so much emphasis on improving their clear speed, as it's the one thing that as a jungler is entirely in your hands, while also being the thing that you do the most in every game. And the easiest way to improve your clear in your very next game is by just becoming way more confident at playing around patience. This will essentially reduce the time spent not in combat when moving between camps, greatly increasing your active time. As like you probably know, the second a camp leaves its patience range, the bar above its health will start ticking down, which granted does seem super fast at first, but actually you have 4 whole seconds to finish it off, which is a surprisingly long time, even if it doesn't feel like that in the moment when you're super fixated on that bar ticking down. But once you get confident with this, you can really start to push it even further, doing things like leashing camps together to maximize your AoE damage, or even learning about specific clear tricks unique to your champion. And if you do happen to be interested in learning more about improving your jungle clear, we have a full library of the world record clears for every meta champion this season over on our site, all complete with helpful subtitles walking you through every stage of your clear, including health thresholds for when you want to be leaving each camp and walking to the next, or even just tips and tricks the average player wouldn't know about. Check it out today using the link in the description or pinned comment below. But while tracking the enemy jungler and avoiding ganks is undoubtedly a little easier once you know those timers, at least for the early game anyway, we understand it doesn't fully solve the problem. We've all been in this exact situation Victor is in here. He's avoided the early game ganks and is doing a great job at pressuring Kassadin, getting himself a big HP lead and making it hard for Kassadin to CS under turret, constantly poking and pushing waves to deny him. That way, he also always has priority to move around the map and assist his jungler whenever he needs. Only the enemy Jarvan comes in with a flash engage from the one side he doesn't have warded, and you're just left sitting there wondering how on earth are you ever supposed to deal with that? Well, the mistake Victor made here is not understanding what a rebound is and how powerful it can be. See, when you push a big wave under tower, what will happen is your opponent's reinforcing wave will arrive and get stuck on it, in turn causing the minions to build up. Then, since it's on your opponent's side of the map, it will begin pushing back to you, just as long as you don't hit the wave as it's coming in. So if we go back to Victor here, he doesn't really need to put on more pressure and doesn't know where the enemy jungler is, meaning what he should have done is ignored the incoming wave and let the wave push towards him. This way, Kassadin has to move up, the lane and Victor can play much safer while also denying Kassadin even more farm, ultimately setting up a freeze. And although, yes, you are technically giving up priority, this is completely irrelevant since they're low enough they can't roam anyway. So Kassadin would have no other option than to recall and just bleed out minions, meaning even without applying more pressure, Victor would get an even bigger lead while also being far safer in the process. Now, although the new turrets with their permanent plates, especially those covered in overgrowth, are now far easier to take in Season 16, and admittedly feels super satisfying to do so, they're actually one of the biggest baits we've seen in low elo this season. Take this game here. Asol and Irelia are both fairly even in lane. Irelia pushes mid and then backs off to recall to grab a pickaxe. Asol has the correct response and moves up to push the next wave as fast as possible. Only instead of basing immediately after, he spots that juicy first plate covered in crystalline overgrowth, which should be super easy to take, only to realize he actually needs to auto it more to cash in. This is the first bait with crystalline overgrowth. The visual doesn't match the damage you're going to do to it. Let me explain. As we all know, overgrowth builds up over time when a turret hasn't been hit for a while. But while it looks juicy, the visual is very deceptive. If we hit a tower that is fully stacked on overgrowth and compare it to one that has only just started building it, we can see that over half the damage is available immediately. So although you do get a bit more damage, it's not as huge as it seems. But anyway, going back to our Asol clip, by the time he's close to taking the plate, guess who's already walked back to lane? Now, although Asol fortunately ends up getting the plate and narrowly avoids Aurelia's E, which with her item advantage would have been for sure death, let's count how much gold he ends up losing by delaying his base. 3 melee minions, a cannon, and a caster. So although, yep, he did get the 120 gold from the plate, he lost far more than that in gold and experience from the minions. But Asol didn't only make the mistake of being baited by overgrowth. He made a mistake even high elo players are having a hard time adapting to in Season 16, learning to match recalls. In previous seasons, if you forced your opponent to have to base, or they decided to base before you, you could typically gain some sort of advantage, either denying them multiple waves, roaming around the map, or even cashing in turret plates, depending on how your lane was going. But now, trying to get an advantage off your opponent basing can actually be a massive mistake, all due to the Season 16 home guard changes. And here's why. With the buffs to home guards this season, it now takes only 12 seconds to get back to mid lane from the fountain, and around 16 seconds to get back to either top or bot tier 1 from base. Remember, recalling still takes 8 seconds, and to understand why this is a big deal, if you see your opponent base in mid, you technically only have 4 seconds of free time until they're back. Otherwise, if you spend any longer than this, they can make it back to lane and prevent you from basing. spacing. Now you're stuck in lane, slowly losing with an item and resource disadvantage, all because you simply didn't match their recall. And the only way to recover is to either get jungle help or to just completely give up an entire wave. So the next time you force somebody out of lane or now they based, unless you've already just based yourself, don't get greedy. Pushing as fast as possible and just matching their recall in the majority of situations is just going to be the best thing you can do. On the flip side, this is something you should also be looking to abuse in your games, as players are still constantly getting caught out by this. Whenever you get back to lane, if you know your opponent's basing, always try your best to stop them. You could just end up instantly winning your lane because of it. Simply calling our next mistake just a mistake doesn't even feel right, as to be truthful, it's more of a plague, and something that has existed in low elo for countless seasons. This crazy obsession with objectives. It doesn't matter what Drake it is or how many either team have, after lane phase ends, anytime a Drake is spawning, every single player will gravitate towards it like ants. Just look at this. We've still got over a minute until the next Drake spawns, but watch the minimap. Every single player, bar Malphite, is sucked by the gravitational pull of Drake. The entire red team is doing circles in the river. Blue team is all hanging around in their jungle watching, and it's not even close to being up yet. Wave after wave are going to waste mid. Bot lane hasn't been farmed for nearly 2 minutes. Zehen even has his TP available, yet he's still there standing around preparing. And even after Jinx gets caught while she's walking around in circles waiting for something to happen, the entire blue team don't care in the slightest and still try to fight 4v5 when they're already down in gold. Malphite, instead of continuing to push top TPs down to bot lane and tries to 1v5. Or he tries to do the same from the other side, and even Lee goes in after to trade 1 for 1. Neither team are on soul point, yet everybody completely loses their minds. What you need to understand is that on their own, Drakes are practically worthless. The stats they give are negligible at best. The only good thing about Drakes is collecting 4 and getting the Dragon Soul, or getting 3 and having the threat of Dragon Soul to force your opponents to fight the next. And this season especially, Void Grubs and Herald have become even less valuable, receiving multiple nerfs, coupled with the removal of feats of strength. And yet, players still willingly throw the game over trying to fight them. Or a super common one, wipe a team, and then instead of just taking a free turret, will instead go and take Herald, and use it to take a turret they could have already secured anyway. The simplest piece of advice you need when it comes to objectives is to just do them when they make sense. You just want to fight, your team's in the area, or you can get it uncontested. Otherwise, just do something else on the map. Push out and farm lanes, pressure turrets and get plates, or even just look to trade something on the opposite side of the map. Especially as applying pressure in lanes has become even stronger now in Season 16 due to one of the biggest revamps in League's history, the minion spawn changes. Instead of spawning every 30 seconds, minions now ramp up their spawn rate over time, spawning every 25 seconds at 14 minutes and every 20 seconds at 30 minutes. Not only that, but they also move even faster now. This 5 or 10 second difference may not sound like a big deal, but this actually greatly punishes one of the biggest low elo mistakes, overgrouping. We see this in every low elo game. Untouched waves just constantly dying while side lanes go neglected for up to minutes at a time, either as players are too scared to leave their team or want to group for an objective. One of the most overpowered tactics to climb, and a mistake low elo players make constantly, is not giving themselves options. Take the Jinx we just saw. Her and Vel'Koz had one option, contest the Drake. However, just by simply walking mid and killing the wave, they would immediately now have multiple options. They could continue pushing down mid and take the tier 2, which maybe even forces some of their red team to respond, at which point they can go back to Dragon with a positional advantage. They could even move top and sync up with Malphite after if nobody responds. The point is, they would have options. And why simply just pushing out mid-wave before an objective is the easiest yet effective macro play in the entire game, and something you should always look to do before any objective. But this feeling like you need to be at every fight or objective early before anything happens is completely understandable. Take this Aurelia here. They're by far the strongest player on the map, having 9 CS a minute, almost 4 completed items, and 12 kills at 23 minutes, which should already give her a ton of confidence. And to boot, she knows where everybody is after seeing the enemy duo mid and both solo laners bot for whatever reason. Yet watch how she's playing. She can't decide if she should push top or group or hover mid or push top. But what if her team get caught? No, she needs to group just in case. But this is the exact feeling that loses players so many games. As we said, it's completely understandable, and I'm sure most of you can relate, as like we all know in low elo, chances are if you're not there, your team will end up getting caught. And what do you know? The enemy team do end up making a play away, and her jungle and support do indeed get caught. So should Aurelia have moved quicker and been there earlier? No, not even in the slightest. The mistake Aurelia made here was even thinking about grouping. She spent so long hesitating, she ended up doing nothing, when instead Aurelia could have instantly walked top from the get-go, committed to pushing straight away, and already be hitting the tier 2 turret. But instead, she gets to the fight late, goes in, dies, and the enemy team pick up a free Baron. Now, imagine if Aurelia had just committed to pushing top. This play might have not even happened, as the blue team would be too focused on sending somebody to stop her. And even if they did decide to make the play mid anyway, she's already getting 3 to 4 waves and a tier 2 turret in response, which is way more gold than you would ever get at any team fight. Plus, the enemy team couldn't just walk straight to Baron right after, as she would have so much pressure in top. And why pressuring side lanes, especially in low elo, is so effective and a complete cheat code to climbing in low elo, teams just don't know how to respond to it properly, especially if you're stronger. Yet most low elo players are so worried about their team or what their team will say, they completely neglect the side lanes and just overgroup the entire game. Which is exactly why we put so much work into developing our Season 16 macro course, as regardless of your mechanics or teammates, there's simple yet effective macro decisions you can make every game to completely carry the game solo, covering topics like how to take over the map through split pushing, the tips you need to never get caught in the side lane, or even the correct way to play around objectives. That one customer even said made his entire yearly subscription completely worthwhile. So if you're feeling stuck this season and you can't rank up no matter how hard you try, SkillCapped is the solution for you. As if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, you get every penny back. Check it out today using the exclusive discount in the description or pinned comment below. And that's 8 of the most common low elo mistakes we see time and time again. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.